Going to within subject design. So remember I said in within subject design, the same subject is tested in different conditions. Okay, so same subject, and we're looking at the effects in the same subject. Instead of as compared to group subject design, where we're looking at averages of groups compared in different conditions, now we're looking at one subject and different tests on that one subject. So just like with group design, there are some things we need to be concerned about. Same thing within subject design. There's certain variables that we want to do our best to control for. And they are sequencing effects, which include the order effect and the carryover effect. So in the order effect, a general performance improvement or decrement may occur between the beginning and the end of an experiment. For example, performance might improve towards the end of experiment because the person has more practice or more familiarity with what you're asking them to do, or they're more comfortable in the test environment that you have them. Or on the flip side, they might show a decrease in performance from beginning to end of the experiment because they're getting tired. Okay, so order effect. The more practice, the more comfortable, the more familiar you are with the setting, maybe there's an improvement in scores. Or the longer the test, the person decreases performance and fatigue, and that affects your results. You also need to be concerned about the carryover effect. This is different from the order effect. The carryover effect is not a general performance change from the beginning to the end of an experiment, but rather the result of the influence of a specific treatment condition on the performance in the next. So within subject, I do, session A, right? And I learned a lot in session A, and that made me smarter, so that when I came back the next day, or you gave me a different condition, like condition B, I used what I'd learned in A and I carried it over into B. Okay, so in other words, the results of one treatment condition may be carried over into the next condition. For example, if studies of temporary threshold shifts induced by presentation of intense noise, subjects must be given a sufficient time to recover before they can have the next noise exposure. Right, so a person walks out of a concert, you test their hearing, and they have a temporary threshold shift. You want to test let's say they're at a festival, and then they're going to go over to another band. Before they go over to another band and you do the test again, let's make sure that what they experienced in the first condition they've recovered from before you test them in the second condition. So they're at a festival, they listen to band A, you test their hearing. They can't go directly to band B until there's like a time period for their hearing to recover, and then you can listen to band B. So if you're comparing, rock music to jazz music, something like that. Carryover effect from one condition to another, as opposed to an order effect, which is a performance like during an experiment from the beginning to the end, or a decrement. So how do we cover for this? So to reduce sequencing effects, we do sequencing randomization or sequencing counterbalancing. All right, so just like there were things we had to control for with group subject design, and we did that by subject randomization, now we're talking about sequence randomization and counterbalancing. So with sequence randomization, you present the experimental treatment to the subjects in a random order. So subject A gets them in this order, subject B gets them in this order, subject C gets them in that order. Everything is random, and the hope is, or the idea is, that any sort of sequencing effects get washed out because of the randomness of it. Now, a researcher might want to, though, examine the sequencing effect. They might want to examine the differences between condition A, condition B, and condition C and see how it affects the subject. If that is the case, they'll do counterbalancing. So instead of setting up all the sequences of the experiment randomly, what they're going to do is they're going to account for every sequence it could possibly be in. So let's say there are three treatments, right? A, B, and C. So they're going to have an A, B, C order, They'll have a BCA order. They'll have a CAB order. They'll make sure that every possible order combination is accounted for. And that's called counterbalancing. All right, so counterbalancing and sequence equivalency or sequence randomization help to overcome these within subject design challenges.